Hello everyone and welcome again to EduNext Academy. And I am Annie. Today we are going to discuss about NEET Foundation for our respiratory system. That means last class also I have discussed about lungs. Today also we will discuss about our breathing system and how exchange of gas occurs inside our lungs. Okay, so now also we will discuss today how heart and lungs are connected together. Now see, this is the diagram. This is actually epiglottis and this is trachea. Pharynx and trachea. Trachea is a long pipe through which whenever we breathe in, takes air from outside to inside our lungs, it has to go through a long pipe. Then this trachea again divided into two parts, that is bronchi, and again some branches are there known as bronchioles. And inside two lungs we have suppose this is left lungs and this is right lungs. So there are two lungs, but in the picture I have shown about the left lung, and similar is also about the right lungs. Now see, through the bronchioles, some sacs are there which are actually contain. It is a sac which contain air. When we take air inside our lungs, the air stay or stored in the sac. Okay. Now see, in between two lungs, our heart is present, and there is another muscular system known as diaphragm. Okay, so in today's class we will know how heart and lungs they are connected, how heart takes oxygenated blood from the lungs and gives deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Actually these lungs, here the exchange of air occurs. Oxygen we takes and we gives out carbon dioxide from our body. Okay, now see, here I have drawn a second figure. This is a heart. Okay, this is a heart, and I have done four chamber 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is right auricle or left auricle, right ventricle, and the left ventricle. Okay. Now, suppose this is our body tissue. Body tissue from that means our carbon dioxide actually generated inside our tissue. Whenever this blood also flow inside the tissue, so by the help of this particular vein, that is known as systemic vein, our deoxygenated blood from body tissue goes to right atrium of the heart. Okay, deoxygenated blood means the oxygen content inside that blood is less as compared to carbon dioxide. Means the carbon dioxide concentration is more in deoxygenated blood and oxygen concentration is less. So it goes to the right atrium. From the right atrium to the lungs, actually I have shown here a sac, alveolar sac, okay, which is present inside this lungs. So from right atrium to lungs, there is an aorta that is known as pulmonary aorta, PL. Pulmonary aorta actually contains deoxygenated blood. Okay, so that is connected with the blood capillary which is surrounded by a sac. What happens when we breathe in, the outside air contain larger number of oxygen molecules and our blood inside the pulmonary aorta contain lesser number of oxygen concentration and carbon dioxide, higher concentration of carbon dioxide. What happens? The gas molecules diffuses from higher concentration to lower concentration. That means in the air inside the alveoli contain higher concentration oxygen, it diffuses to the this pulmonary aorta. That means it diffuses through the wall, and the carbon dioxide from the pulmonary aorta it diffuses into the alveolic sac. So when the blood circulated throughout the capillary, it reaches to pulmonary vein, and that pulmonary vein is connected to the left atrium. This pulmonary vein contains oxygenated blood. The oxygen collected from the alveolic sac. Okay. Then from left atrium to left ventricle, the oxygenated blood flow through systemic aorta. Systemic aorta contain oxygenated blood, and that by the help of this systemic aorta, the oxygenated blood reaches to the every tissue of the our body. Okay. In this way, the carbon dioxide and oxygen, they exchange from the right atrium to the sac, alveolic sac. So let me explain it more. Now let us discuss in detail how our exchange of gases occurs inside the sac. So as I have already told, from the right aorta we are taking deoxygenated blood, that means less O2 and more CO2. You know, whenever that blood flow inside the capillary, this is alveolic sac. Inside the lungs, it contains air inside whenever we breathe in, and this is surrounded by blood capillaries. That blood capillaries connected both right outer and left outer atrium. Okay, right atrium and left atrium through pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. This is connected with pulmonary artery and this is connected to pulmonary vein. Pulmonary artery contain deoxygenated blood, right? That means less number of oxygen is there, which is collected from whole part of our body, and more number of carbon dioxide. Okay. So whenever the air enter into our lungs and it stay inside the this alveolic sac, the concentration of oxygen is more maximum than as compared to carbon dioxide. But inside the blood, the RBCs are there. Okay, these RBCs are attached with the that RBC. There is an affinity, means attraction between this oxygen and this red blood cell. Okay, so whenever the blood flow inside the capillary, the oxygen from the air, that is concentration is more as compared to the blood capillaries inside the blood inside the capillary. So you know that gas molecules always diffuses from higher concentration to lower concentration. This is known as gradient. Okay. So whenever that oxygen comes from the sac to the capillary, that is known as a diffusion. Okay. Similarly, the carbon dioxide in the capillary is having more concentration as compared to the air inside the alveolic sac. Okay. So this carbon dioxide, it diffuses to the sac. Understand? And whenever the blood is flowing, whenever the oxygen is coming from the sac to the capillary, the red blood cell capture that oxygen. And as it is connected to pulmonary vein, that pulmonary vein is called oxygen. It carries oxygenated blood, and that pulmonary vein is connected to left atrium of our heart. Okay, from left atrium, by the help of systemic aorta, the oxygenated blood is actually transport to every tissues of our body. So in this way, the carbon dioxide and oxygen gas exchange. Okay. Now let us discuss two breathing process, that is expiration and inspiration. Okay. How we take inspiration means we are taking the oxygen air inside our lungs. Okay. Expiration means we are exhale out, means we are removing the air from our lungs to outside. Okay. And that process we will go detail now. Now, you know that breathing is actually we are taking in air and we are just removing air from our body. Okay, that means it is a two process. That means inspiration and expiration. What do you mean by inspiration? Inspiration is a process where we take the air from our nasal path through larynx, trachea, and the bronchi. Last, the air reaches to the alveolic sac in the inside the lungs. Okay, so it is a process by taking air into the lungs. But how it happens? So actually, it is an active process which depends upon some muscular effect. which muscles is responsible to taking the air inside our lungs. This muscle is diaphragm. That diaphragm is present below our lungs. It contracts during the inspiration process. This basically these muscles get contracts and go to downward. Goes to downwards, and by the same time, our ribs are present, which protects the inside organ, and in between the rib bone, some muscles are there. Our rib means what is rib. Okay, so that muscles is known as intercostal muscle. Rib, which protects our heart, lungs, pancreas, etc. In between the bone of the ribs, some muscles are present. That muscles is known as intercostal muscles. That becomes relaxed. It contracts, and obviously the heart and the lungs are there covered by the bone structure. That is the skeleton. You might have seen, that is known as rib bone. That rib, inside that muscles, inside that bone, individual bones of muscles are present. That muscles expand. Okay, when that muscles expand, our thoracic cavity, means whole chest cavity, it expands. When that happens, inside the lungs, the air pressure becomes low, and the air pressure inside the lungs low, and as compared to the air pressure outside. So you know that whenever your cyclone happens, means low pressure area, high air is coming, high pressure air is coming. Similarly, it happens to our body also. Whenever our thoracic and diaphragm contrast, and simultaneously our thoracic cavity expand due to expansion of this intercostal muscle. Okay, so during the relaxation of these muscles, our lungs becomes relaxed. Okay, the air pressure inside the lungs becomes lower as compared to the outside air. And whenever the air pressure becomes lower from the outside air, the outer air rushes into the lungs. In this way, we breathe in. And the reverse is that exhalation means the diaphragm becomes relaxed, and the intercostal muscles becomes contracts, and air pressure inside the lungs is more as compared to outer air, so it exhales out. It exhales out the carbon dioxide present, which is collected from the deoxygenated blood from entire part of our body or tissues. Okay. So let us now again I am repeating here. Inspiration is a process of taking air inside our lungs. It is an active process because it depends upon the muscular contraction or muscular effect. During inspiration, our diaphragm, which is very important muscles present below the lungs and heart. Okay, it can contract and relax. So during the inspiration, what happens? When this recontracts, at the same time, the intercostal muscles present in our rib bone, and that becomes relaxed. When that becomes relaxed, our total thoracic cavity becomes relaxed and swollen. And but at that particular time, the air pressure inside the lungs, it becomes lower as compared to outside of our body. So when the low pressure, higher pressure air, they rushes directly into the lungs through our nasal cavity, trachea to our lungs. In this way, inspiration mechanism happens. Now, expiration is, as I have already told, that expiration is a process of removing out air from our lungs. It is a passive process. Inspiration was an active process. It is just repose. So it is a passive process where our diaphragm relax. Okay. Now, whenever our diaphragm relax, the rib muscles and the rib, they come down. When they come down, move down, it will allow the thoracic cavity to contrast, and pressure inside the lungs becomes more, and which will help to rush out the air inside the muscles, that is the carbon dioxide which is collected by the alveolar sac, that will be rushed out from our body. Okay, so this two process is very important. Then how it happens, how we take oxygen and we just exhale out carbon dioxide outside our body. Very important mechanism. Okay, now let us discuss about what is partial pressure. This is very important, and you are just going to get a very good questions regarding this partial pressure in your NEET examination. Okay, now let us discuss about partial pressure. Partial pressure, most of the students they prepare, and most of the questions are also coming from this partial pressure. So what is that partial pressure? So air pressure. So what the air we are taking inside, or air inside the blood contain basically oxygen, carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Okay. So this air is a mixture. It is not a homogeneous gas, it is a heterogeneous gas. It is a mixture of oxygen, carbon dioxide and nitrogen. So total pressure of the air, that pressure is due to oxygen, plus pressure is due to carbon dioxide, plus pressure is due to nitrogen. Okay. So if we take individual pressure of individual gas, okay, that is known as partial pressure. We cannot say that partial pressure is equal to total pressure. So total pressure is the pressure due to different gases. Okay. Now partial pressure is pressure exerted by the particular gas. So definitely the partial pressure of oxygen will be different from the partial pressure of carbon dioxide and will be different from the partial pressure of nitrogen. Now how to understand that? So let us solve a problem. So air pressure is given 760, whatever the air, suppose for example we are taking air and that air pressure is 760 mmHg, and mm means it is millimeter of mercury. The pressure is measured in a unit, that is millimeter per mercury. It is also known as torr, Turr. It is also known as torr. So the partial pressure, for example, it is said that the 21% of total pressure contain oxygen. Okay. Now 21 total pressure, out of total pressure 21% is contain oxygen molecules. So how to calculate what is the partial pressure offered by this oxygen molecule? So very simple. That means 21% is 21 by 100 into the total pressure is 760. That is 0.21 into 760 mm. So final answer is 160 mmHg. You remember mm means millimeter mercury. Millimeter of mercury, because mercury it is used to measure the air pressure, and we can say torr also. Torr is another unit of air pressure, measuring air pressure. Okay. Now partial pressure is not a whole total pressure exerted by the air that is coming, we are taking inside. It is a combination of this oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen. Whenever we calculate individual pressure of individual component, individual gas, that is known as partial pressure of that particular gas. That's why total pressure is equal to PO2, PCO2 plus PN2. Okay. Individually, the partial pressure of individual gas can be calculated. So please remember this formula, and in the next coming class we will discuss more about the NEET questions, last year and previous year's questions also we will discuss about this respiratory system. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because your subscription is important, and if you subscribe, my next video will be notified you soon. Thank you for watching my video.